Hey, welcome back. So today, I think we're ready to cut. The R32 is officially gutted, part 2. In the last video, I think 3 or 4 months ago, it was close. After I made that video, I realized there were still a lot of bits and pieces I needed to take out, potentially salvage, sunroof, airbags, a couple other things, to try and figure out how to make quick work of the shell. I think what we're going to do is probably cut the roof off of it to make it easier to work, and then likely cut outside of the floor. Let me see if I can show you. So you can see this seam right here is the seam that holds the floor in. So the spot welds going in this way. This seam goes down here. You can see some seam sealer down here, and it goes around and comes in front of the back seat here. And so the goal is to, since this shell is going to get junked, we're going to cut outside of that seam, pull this floor out, and then work it either on the bench or maybe throw up on some horses or something. But the goal is to basically cut this floor out and take these spot welds out from the other sheet metal without damaging the floor pan, which will keep it. So kind of hard to illustrate. Might have to be something that I explain in another video, or maybe I can illustrate with some actual graphics. But the idea is to basically, when you cut this floor out, you separate the metal from this side here so that the sheet metal we're keeping has no holes in it. And then you grind all the spot welds flat until you have a nice clean floor pan with no holes drilled for the spot welds. Then on the GTI, what we'll do is we'll take the floor out in the normal direction, which is from the inside out, and drill through the floor pan, since we're not keeping that floor pan, but we are keeping the GTI shell. And what that allows us to do is have 2 clean pieces of sheet metal. You'll have a clean body with no holes in it, and you'll have a clean pan with no holes in it. And that allows us to drill our own holes for spot welds, or make our own spot welds, depending on how we end up actually doing the welding. I don't think we'll be able to get a hold of a spot weld actual, welder. So we'll probably have to MIG weld it. So we'll make our own holes, but at least it'll allow us to make nicer, cleaner holes, more like the factory separation, and have a nicer finished piece. So that's kind of the plan, and that's what I'm doing today. Hopefully I can get this done so that we can get rid of this. I hope the audio is good here because it's pretty loud out here. I didn't expect it to be so loud, but the highway is pretty busy despite the pandemic. So yeah, that's what this is about, and let's get started, I guess. Rip. Do you want to know why Mark IVs are so heavy and why they sound so good when they have nice stereos? So I took the speakers out and drilled out the rivets on the mounts, right? All of this crap is behind it. And these doors, by the way, they weigh a ton. That's why these cars feel so solid. You close the door and you hear a thunk. I'm pretty impressed for how old these cars are, I gotta say. And like, the amount of structural rigidity it has is really impressive. All right, so made a lot of progress. Most of the sheet metal's cut away. You kind of see here, no more roof, no more B-pillar. You can see around the wheel well here, cut all this stuff away, and it starts to expose the metal that we need. So ignore this stuff. This is pretty nasty, but luckily I don't think we'll need any of the metal that's kind of like a little bit chewed up. This is why you don't jack up your car from the pinch wells or from the rockers, because you end up going into the paint, and then you end up with crappy exposed metal, and you basically destroy your car. This is cancer. This happens over time. This is not an overnight kind of thing. But anyway, so kind of made semi-quick work out of it. So I used the body saw and the Sawzall to do it all so far. And now we're exposing these spot welds here, which go towards the inside of where the floor is. So this pan is what we need to keep. And there's a couple more inside here, which I think we're going to be able to get to a lot easier now that the skin is kind of gone. And part of the reason why you need this whole front area is the gas tank sits under there, as well as the suspension. What is that? Yeah, see these cups right here? That's where the suspension mounts, the trailing arms mount. And this also comes with it. This is the spring perch, the cup, whatever you want to call it. But if we try to follow this, so this is the seam right here. And if we follow this around the car, it brings us down. And then you can see here, it comes out towards the outside of the car. And it's going to continue down that way. And that's where we need to kind of continue. So I'll show you the other side. Same deal over here. Cut everything, exposing the seams. And we're a lot better shape over here. It looks like they didn't jack up or screw anything up over here. But look at the amount of sheet metal that came off. It's pretty crazy. But I'm going to save a lot of this stuff because it's going to make for good practice on for spot welding with the MIG welder. So that's going to be good. I'm going to keep a lot of that stuff. But what else? What else? Yeah, so the next part of this is going to be kind of like cutting the car down the middle. So literally right here where I have this little bolt, I'm going to be cutting this car straight across. And by doing that, we could separate the front from the back, get rid of the front, and then now this thing is manipulatable and I can, you know, start flipping it over, getting at the spot welds, the seam sealer, the undercoating, all the stuff we're going to have to grind off. And for that, we actually picked up a nice tool at the recommendation of my buddy Brian, who you might know if you follow Jimmy O, because he's always on his channel. One of these little belt sanders. So apparently these things make very quick work of both spot welds, seam sealer, you name it. Basically everything having to do with body work. It helps to really cut down on the labor time. And you know, I'm all about having tools for the job, so I'll always spend money on tools because it's an investment. You can never go wrong, you know. But you have to make sure when you buy tools, you buy nice, not twice. Because shit tools will cause you to pay twice. But yeah, that's it, I think, for today. It took a lot longer than I originally anticipated because I had to take my time and kind of just like study the sheet metal and make sure I wasn't going to completely destroy something. So, you know, I'm a newbie at this. Like, you know, I'm grateful to have and lucky to have access to my father's shop, but this is body work and I've never done body work at all, so. All right, so I cut the tunnel out with the shifter hole and everything, and let me explain why. So on the bottom side of the tunnel, we have these two brackets, and these brackets are responsible for locating the center bracket on the drive shaft, the bearing that splits it into two pieces or two assemblies. So I cut it out towards the front here so that when we go to put these into the new car, into the black car, we can kind of take some points of reference here. So there's this bracket here for some interior stuff. There's a stud here, a couple other studs here, which in theory should be in the same spot. So we could use these to measure and try and locate these in the exact same place. Now, it's not a completely perfect science because the drive shaft has some wiggle room to it. So as long as these are within some sort of tolerance, we'll be okay. But this is one last piece of the puzzle besides the floor that we need to do this swap, and anybody would need to do this swap in a front-wheel drive car. So I think that's a wrap for today. The floor is cut. You can see everything's kind of prepared. Next is really getting into the nitty-gritty of getting at the seam sealer and exposing all of the spot welds to get rid of all this extra metal here. So this seam here coming down and around. But 4 R32, it's done. It's done for. And yeah, so we're still not out of the woods yet. Still some work to do for this to be ready to even be considered a swappable pan. But we're getting there. It looks like this thing had a bit of a rough life. I don't know if it was water damaged or what, but there's some water that got in some weird spots. But I get under here, you know, besides this here, and let me see if I can make it brighter. Besides that and the pinch welds, I think we'll be okay. There's some rust up in the pocket where the trailing arm mounts, but I think it's only surface. You guys are gonna find out when I do whether this thing's junk, and if it was junk, this was just a fun therapeutic exercise in cutting up a perfectly not good R32. Still sad though, and everybody online's been busting my balls about it. But yeah, bright. I think I'm gonna wrap this video up here. I don't know how much more work I'm gonna do because it's hot as hell. It's the first day of summer, and I wanted to do some work to the TT. So I think that's it for now. Next time, prepping this thing further and maybe starting to dig into, where is it? The GTI. So I feel like every time somebody does this project, it's like almost reinventing the wheel when it doesn't need to be, because it's a big community and a lot of people have done this. So I'm gonna gather everything that I've learned from other people, as well as everything that I'm learning myself, and I'm going to compile all that in a place that's accessible for everybody. So, all right guys, catch you next time. Peace.